Allen Company, 47 years young and a proud sponsor, wishes OOIDA all the best as you celebrate 50 years.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
The Women of Trucking Advisory Board has wrapped up its final meeting, including discussions of apprenticeship programs, and is getting ready for its next task. I'll discuss that, plus a committee on underwrite protections with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. A country music singer has taken his love for trucking and his talent behind the microphone to write a song dedicated to the unsung heroes who traverse the country. Andy Purcell's recent song, Last Load to Heaven, pays homage to a longtime friend and truck driver. Landline Now's Ashley Blackford has the story. And finally, the director of the FBI recently warned Congress that the attack by Hamas against Israel could inspire attacks here in the United States, and that means truckers have to be extra vigilant in the days ahead. I'll get some information and advice from OOIDA Director of Safety and Security Operations, Doug Morris. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. We begin tonight with the ongoing narrative surrounding a so-called driver shortage. The OOIDA Foundation has a new report that analyzes and ultimately debunks the claim that's frequently trumpeted by the American trucking associations. The first red flag has to do with ATA's own numbers. Although the American Trucking Associations has never demonstrated the methodology it uses to arrive at its numbers, Andrew King of the OOIDA Foundation says a quick review of the group's yearly reports shows large inaccuracies.
Just for example, in their 2015 driver shortage report, they said that in 2016, just 1 year out from that when that report was given, that the driver shortage would be 73,500. But when they released their next report, which is in 2017, and they look backwards a couple years, they said the driver shortage was 36,500. So they were off by 50%. Mm-hmm. And this is not the only time they did this. In fact, probably the worst example is that in 2015, their report said that there would be approximately 160,000 as far as the driver shortage goes by 2023.
Okay.
But then they just recently sent out an update that changed that figure to 60,000, which is a 62.5% reduction. That's huge. That's huge. Yeah. When you're talking about stats, that's a huge miss. And of course, the real thing is it's not just a 62% reduction or 50%. It's the whole thing's off. There's not a driver shortage. And just looking at basic dynamics of the labor market in trucking would show that there has never been a long-term driver shortage.
Why would ATA continue to push a narrative they may know is false, both to the public and to lawmakers? During a House subcommittee hearing in September, the trucking group used the so-called driver shortage to justify the deployment of driverless trucks. Louis Pugh, Executive Vice President of OOIDA, believes that's at the heart of this.
Yeah, well, everything in Washington, D.C. is pretty much comes from economics, from one way or another. It's unfortunately, you can, as they say, follow the money.
For better and for worse.
Yes, for better and for worse. But when it comes to transportation and trucking, you know, there's lots of things that big fleets and the big members of the American Trucking Association put on their trucks to manage their drivers, driver management tools. A lot of drivers, once they get a little experience, they don't want all the driver management tools, or they don't want to work for us, so they leave. And unfortunately, what we see happening is most of them just leave the industry all the way because of the way they're treated, the way they're paid. Their time is worth nothing. The long laundry, there's nowhere to park. I mean, we can talk about all kinds of things that have to do with that. But some of them do stay, and they go to smaller carriers. They go to work for people who don't have these things, or they go to people who have these things, but maybe they pay them a lot more money.
OOIDA has been pushing back on the driver shortage narrative for nearly as long as it's been around. But the association isn't alone. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported in 2019 that there was no evidence backing up the claims of a driver shortage. Earlier this year, FreightWaves called the driver shortage a myth. ATA pushed back on that at the time, but then didn't accept offers to participate in a debate. Pew says there's another piece of evidence as well. If there were a shortage, drivers would be getting paid more.
Drivers' pay has not kept up with inflation since the 1970s. Truckers should all be making six figures. They should. We see these crazy, we say, hey, you can make $50,000 your first year as a truck driver. Well, big whoop, that's a 70-hour-a-week job. I'm away from my family 200 and some days a year. That's, $14? Figure that up, $14 or something an hour? Big whoop. Why don't you, all these people at ATA, why aren't your children doing it? Oh, because it sucks. The pay sucks. It sucks. And you continue down this road in this narrative. What we should be doing, not only is the American Trucking Association, but the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, at DOT, and the elected officials, we should be looking at what the problem is. We want safe highways. We want safe roads out here. Well, if you want that, you need to invest in drivers, and that's expensive. Safety technologies is relatively cheap. It's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on a truck, upgrade. And probably if you're a big fleet, it's less than that.
Sure.
So you put a few little gadgets on there. Let's talk about really training a driver, where they go to a real extensive training. Maybe we have a graduated CDL that or something like that, or it looks like a union where you have to do so much before you become a journeyman. All these different kind of things that we can look at and that we've seen in the past work. If you want to help highway safety and help the roads, and you want to keep people in this industry, that's what we're going to have to do. But see, big carriers have had this overturned at 90%. They're turning over their people every year. They've had this for so long. Their entire economy, their entire business structure, everything is based on this. And they don't want to change it because it is working for them.
If you'd like to check out the OOID Foundation one-page report for yourself, we've got a story on our website, landline.media, with a link. Another lawmaker has signed on in support of an anti-speed limiter bill in the House. Representative John Rose of Tennessee is the 31st co-sponsor of H.R. 3039, otherwise known as the DRIVE Act. The bill is simple enough in its language. It would prohibit the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration from imposing a speed limiter mandate on heavy trucks. Introduced by Congressman Josh Brecheen of Oklahoma earlier this year, H.R. 3039 is currently a partisan piece of legislation. So far, the only supporters are Republicans. The same goes for a companion bill in the Senate, which has 9 co-sponsors right now. Meanwhile, a separate bill related to trucking is getting bipartisan support, and it's growing. Representative Harriet Hageman of Wyoming is the 41st member of the House to sign on to H.R. 2367, the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. The list of co-sponsors is just about half and half in terms of party affiliation. H.R. 2367 was introduced by Representative Mike Bost of Illinois. It seeks to allocate $755 million over a 3-year period toward the construction of free, publicly available truck parking spaces nationwide. This one also has a companion bill in the Senate. It currently has a dozen co-sponsors. CRST is expanding its reach, the company said in a news release, and it's acquiring BCB Transport, which is based in Texas. Terms of the deal were not announced. According to FMCSA's Safer website, BCB has 275 power units and 275 drivers. And finally, 2 new Love's locations are adding nearly 200 truck parking spots to the communities they serve. The new travel stop in Shreveport, Louisiana, off Interstate 49 at exit 215, includes 109 parking spaces. The other in Herculaneum, Missouri, off Interstate 55 at exit 178, includes 80 spots. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Next, I'll cover the Women of Trucking Advisory Board with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine ViberTech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with ViberTech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. More miles for every tire dollar, and more confidence in your fleet. At Firestone, we help fleets save with dependable value. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
The Women of Trucking Advisory Board has wrapped up its final meeting and is getting ready for its next task. Welcome back to Landline Now. This is Regulatory Roundup, and I'm Mark Reddig. I'm joined as always by OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. Jay, thanks for joining us.
Good to be back.
Well, good to have you here. Let's start with what their task was. This is their final meeting. What was it that they were working on in this last gathering?
So, last week held the fifth official meeting with the task of examining ways in which trucking companies, nonprofit organizations, training and education providers, as well as trucking associations may coordinate functions to facilitate support for women pursuing careers in trucking. Obviously, throughout all these meetings, the focus has been expanding and enhancing access for women in the trucking industry, whether that's through recruitment efforts. We've really, at OOIDA, focused on retention efforts, improving outreach and communication to women. And this last meeting continued that theme. And during the meeting, representatives from organizations with apprenticeship programs shared their insight with members of the board and continued to have, I think, really productive discussions among the Women of Trucking Advisory Board members.
You mentioned hearing from those apprenticeship programs. One of them was a group called ANEW, which I guess stands for Apprenticeship and Non-Traditional Employment for Women. And they had quite a bit to say there. What was their take regarding apprenticeships?
Yes, and this organization offers 17 different apprenticeship programs and plans to begin a new CDL program in February that will help students obtain a Class A or Class B CDL. And the executive director of the group, Karen Dove, said that apprenticeship programs are a critical component when it comes to successfully increasing the number of women interested in joining the trucking industry. And these types of programs offer women a supportive network of peers and mentors who can provide guidance and advice as they navigate their careers in a traditionally male-dominated industry. And I think for the most part, we've seen apprenticeship programs be successful in not only offering significant training and education for individuals before they enter in careers, but I think the apprenticeship programs have proven a longer-term retention rate as well. So I think to have apprenticeship programs focused specifically for women is going to be effective, but want to see these successful apprenticeship programs, really across the board, continue to thrive and really get the attention they need as an option for anyone entering the industry.
You mentioned earlier that what part of this particular meeting was talking about what associations can do. And I know that OOIDA had also offered some comments to this board. What were some of the major points the association made in their comments?
Yeah, really that fostering an inclusive trucking workforce is going to result in a safer, more efficient, and sustainable industry. Certainly acknowledge the efforts that the Women of Trucking Advisory Board has already played in addressing several critical issues pertaining to the recruitment, retention, and safety of women in trucking. Certainly looking forward to the recommendations that they're going to be providing in their forthcoming report. Also mentioned some of the key advocacy issues that OIDA has really led the way on throughout the decades that really focus on the safety of women, but really focus on improving retention across the trucking workforce, whether that's improving inadequate compensation to drivers, expanding truck parking capacity, and then addressing personal safety risks to women through better driver training programs as well. And when you look at some of the sectors of the industry where you see turnover at or exceeding 100%, it's really imperative stakeholders across the industry embrace really solving and fixing these long-standing systemic industry failures.
So what's the next task for the Women of Trucking Advisory Board?
Okay, they're going to meet officially again in a couple weeks here on November 13th as kind of one final review meeting to kind of compile all their findings of all the meetings that have taken place, review and report on policies that provide education, training, mentorship, and outreach to women in the trucking industry. Then they're going to kind of meet behind closed doors in a way. They've got a committee of the advisory board set up that includes 6 members of the committee that are going to really start putting together this final report. And that report's going to be submitted to FMCSA and Congress, detailing actions that can be taken by the administrator to adopt the recommendations, as well as an explanation of the reasonings for not adopting the recommendations should FMCSA go that route as well. And then FMCSA, based upon the advisory board's report, will file an additional report with Congress down the line. So next steps are going to be putting together all these discussions and recommendations that the board has been discussing for about the past year, really get those on paper, submit those recommendations to FMCSA, and then FMCSA will then kind of consider those and come up with their own report.
Okay. Well, the Women of Trucking Advisory Board isn't the only advisory committee in operation right now. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has an advisory committee on underride protections that's gearing up as well. Why was this particular committee formed, Jay?
Yeah, this was required by Congress as part of the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and was really a provision looking at underride safety in general. One aspect of the law was for NHTSA to conduct more research on side underrides. They've kind of gone through that initial part, but also to create this underride advisory committee to have some further discussions about underride safety. So the board was formed earlier this year. They had their initial meeting back in May, and they're going to have their second meeting now here on November 15th. So this committee, again, continues to make progress, and the second meeting is going to be focusing on operational concerns such as railroad crossings, high curbs, and weather factors. And the meeting is going to take place Wednesday, November 15th, 12:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We've seen some initial topics, still waiting on a formal agenda for the meeting, but another opportunity for the advisory committee to kind of discuss some different perspectives on underride committees. And this board made up of a lot of different industries and sectors of the trucking industry.
You mentioned that they've already had one meeting. What were some of the discussion topics at that first meeting?
Yeah, the first meeting was generally kind of an introduction of all the advisory board members, but kind of did get into some kind of basic viewpoints on the potential value for underride equipment. Certainly there are some folks on the committee who want to see a mandate on not only rear underrides and improving those rear underride standards, but also side underride and front underride equipment. I think from the driver community, who is also represented on the advisory board from OIDA board member Doug Smith, I think we've seen the studies and we've heard the operational concerns that a side underride mandate does not make sense for motor carriers and for professional drivers when you look at the costs, some of the safety benefits. And this is a topic that NHTSA, the agency who's administering the committee meetings, has kind of looked at for decades. And time and time again, they've come back with the conclusion that the costs for a potential side underwrite continue to outweigh potential safety benefits. That was reiterated in an advance notice of proposed rulemaking that came out earlier this year. So those discussions will continue here in a couple weeks, and definitely continues to be a hot topic among safety advocates, among drivers, but we have not seen the substantive safety and research data indicating that NHTSA should pursue a side underride mandate at this point.
You mentioned the advance notice of proposed rulemaking that NHTSA put out, and I know that OOIDA made comments on that. I'm wondering if you can highlight some of the more important parts of those comments.
Yeah, so part of that 2021 highway bill was for NHTSA to conduct additional research. They went through that process and came out with some updating findings that still said the equipment cost for a mandate would be as much as 7 times as much as the safety benefits. And a lot of that report did not even take into account some of the operational investment costs that would go in to a mandate and some of the equipment adjustments and the maintenance cost that would have to be included. And NHTSA put out a handful of different questions asking for more information. We made some estimates that should be included and also reiterated some of our concerns with the side underride equipment, whether that's getting in and out of loading and unloading facilities in kind of constrained areas that really aren't set up to account for the side underride equipment. Certainly mentioned some concerns with drivers getting hung up on these rail crossings across the country as well. So tried to give NHTSA some more information from the motor carrier and driver side and some of the things that their research did not account for.
Well, one last topic here in the time we have left. A group of owner-operators have told FMCSA that brokers should be made to pay for detention time. This was in response to an FMCSA information collection request. What specifically was FMCSA asking for?
Yeah, again, going back to that 2021 highway bill, which required FMCSA to do some more research and studies on detention time, FMCSA has put out a proposal to gather more information, and that comment period closed last week. I think there were 175 different comments in response to the proposal. OOIDA's comments, really focused on the technical details about how the information was going to be collected. And FMCSA is looking for about 80 motor carriers and 2,500 commercial motor vehicle drivers to provide data for the study. As part of the proposal, FMCSA is really focusing on gathering clients and participants that use a product called Speed Gauge. And we wanted to make sure that the study itself did not focus entirely on those Speed Gauge users, but really wanting to make sure that the study gets a diverse sample size, including owner-operators. And we cited a 2018 report from the Department of Transportation's Office of Inspector General that really found that a 15-minute increase in the time a truck spends at a loading facility can increase, crash rates by 6.2%. Certainly, the dollars lost in terms of the bottom line are astronomical. That 2018 report said detention time costs drivers between $1.1 and $1.3 billion each year. It was interesting that in part of this comment period, ATA said there have been no studies indicating any safety costs or economic costs, but you've got the DOT reports that are out there right now. So continue to watch DOT as they set up this much-needed study.
Okay, well, Jay, we've run out of time. Lots more to talk about, but maybe next time. Thank you very much for all the information.
Thank you.
I've been talking with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. We'll be back in just a moment with more of the program. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back.
From boots on the boots hall, he's working round the clock. Got the hammer down, running northbound, and he ain't got time to stop.
Last Load to Heaven is a song dedicated to the tireless truckers who travel all over the United States. The song was written by Andy Purcell, who is a Florida-based singer-songwriter. He joins me now. Andy, starting out, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into the country music world?
Well, the whole musical journey started with a song I wrote. I know Nashville always says it starts with a song, and that's how it happened with me. I'm a lineman by trade, work in the power line industry. That's what I was doing at the time for a pretty good bit. And I made a song, created it, called The Fans. And I was just looking for a studio to record in. And Tropical Storm Debbie hit. And as a lineman, you work crazy hours. And I remember it was midnight. I was up in the tree. And my buddies across town, they were at a house where the tree took down the power line at the house. And they were like, hey, man, we found you a studio to record your songs in. I was like, really? He said, yeah, we're working on his power right now. He had a 5-star studio at his house. And I was just going to record a song just to say I did it in my lifetime, just to have, something to look back on and say I created, not to do what I'm doing now. It's just crazy how things evolve. But I ended up hitting it off with him. His name's Del Couch. He started a music foundation, and he started putting on farmers markets and festivals. I started learning the industry, the trade. And in that foundation, an American Idol guy come out of there, Sam Wolf. He was cut number 5 in 2014 season. And things just blossomed from there, man. I went from farmers markets right to the homecoming concert. He's coming to town. He went straight to 50,000 people. That's pretty big to be on that show. And then I was playing the opening, act at a civic center, and things just progressed from there. Started a band. I had a buddy of mine, he saw me at a festival. He said, hey, man, we got to put a band behind you. And I said, man, I work crazy hours, man. I don't know if I could do the music on the weekends because I work every, 3 weekends a month. But I thought about it, and I said, man, if I'm going to do it, I'm all in. I transferred departments September of 2015. Where I could get 4 10-hour days, and Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday was dedicated to music. And next month, October 15th, started a band. And within a year and a half, we opened for John Michael Montgomery. And then it was John Michael Montgomery, Clay Walker, and then we did the Swanee River Jam that year, took the headliner local act up in North Florida over 16 bands, is about 30,000 people. And then ever since then, so that was 2017, and then every year past that, besides the COVID year, we've opened for 2 national artists to now. And in the process, I was writing and recording in Nashville with all the greats there, the best session players around, and these guys are awesome. And that's how everything started. And I've just been creating and trying to knock down every door that opens for us.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Now, you have a song called Last Load to Heaven that just came out. Talk to me about what that is about.
Yeah, so my family growing up in the town of Arcadia, Florida, where I'm from, my family owned the Wrecker and Road Service. They still do. And so I grew up a lot around the big trucks and, changing tires on the semis and keeping them on the road. A lot of roadside service, 24 hours. I mean, accidents, towing, anything having to do with big trucks and automobiles too as well. So I have a lot of that, in my head. a lot of memories, and I just like that world too, because without trucks, America stops, so it's a good business to be in. And when I graduated high school, I went into power lines, and I would work. I was in a 4-10-hour job at that time, and I wanted something else to do, so I had gotten my Class A CDL driver's license, and I started driving semis Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and weekends just to make extra money. I was hauling oranges here in Florida, and just part-time, just something extra to do. And one of my buddies that I grew up with all the way from teenagers, he was big time in the trucking, man. His dad was a truck driver. 11 years old, he was sitting in the driveway talking on his dad's CB radio, wondering where he can get a bite to eat coming into town, and he was only just a kid. And we lost him in 21, 2 years ago. I was thinking about all the times we had. He drove with me on those weekends, and we were convoying everywhere. It was just really cool. We'd go to truck stops and eat and drink coffee, and just I got to live that part of the trucker life with him. But he was full-time driving a lot, man, for many years. And I used to say, man, if diesel ran through somebody's blood, it was definitely running through his. And when we lost him, he would talk to me, he's like, and lyrically, he could come up with a lot of cool verses and songs and stuff growing up. And he just had that gift, and he always wanted to write a song with me, but we never really sat down and wrote anything. And once he passed, I figured I wanted to do something, about him, because we had a lot of memories together, and I knew a lot about trucks, and I just thought about this song. It just came to and pretty much wrote itself. I mean, probably 3 days after he passed, and when anybody loses somebody, you just reminisce on all the memories you had, and and the good and the bad, and everything just comes to you. And this song just started. I mean, it wrote pretty fast, man. And I was so thankful to have it. And, even though we didn't get to write a song together, we're kind of together because, I wrote it about him. And anybody that's lost a truck driver family member, they know what's entailed their career. They're in that truck more than they're at home. So just to have something to, have a memory of a loved one that's driving truck, you can kind of look at this song and think about it, because all the lyrics are just dedicated to a person that's driving for a living. And I just thought of Last Load to Heaven, and he's just, taking his last load, and we were saying goodbye. And when I went in the studio with this song, when you go to record, just a little 101 in Nashville, when you go to record, you have to give the session players music, the type of song you're chasing, like what kind of vibe are you feeling on the song? What kind of song do you want it to sound close to, or just kind of give them that vibe so you leave with a great product out of the studio? And in my mind, I had the song 8 Second Ride by Crystal Dew on this song, so you can feel that get up and go with the song. It's like he's riding. I mean, you can feel it. From right up the intro of the song, Mr. Mike Johnson on pedal steel, man, it just grabs your heartstrings, man. You can feel it. And then it's just you're on a ride. It takes you kind of on an adventure, about a truck driver who's just taking his last load and what's going through their mind and what's happening. So that's kind of how it all evolved, the Last Load to Heaven song.
You kind of touched on this, but can you talk to me more about the connection that, in some of the lyrics, how it really defines the narrative of truck driving? It's more of a way of life than just a job.
Yeah, the first line, from boots on to boots off, he's working around the clock, and he's got the hammer down, running northbound, and he ain't got time to stop. So it's always constant. You're, trying to get that load to the next location, and looking for loads as well, just to keep it going. All the lines in that song are, the CB screaming out his name with the squelch turned way up. Tears are running down our face like rain on the blacktop. I mean, all the lyrics relate to the trucking industry. He's got the radio on with smoke in the atmosphere, the diesel rolling smoke all the time, and it's just every line. I mean, every line you can relate to something that you're doing in the semi or have seen, and it's just, it's years and years of truck driver history. The slang on the CB radios. We're going to catch them on the flip flop. I say in the song. It's just on the turnaround. We're going to see them again. You're going to see your loved one again. That's the term flip flop for a lot of people that don't know. But yeah, that song wrote itself, man. I'm so thankful to have it and share it with everybody.
Can you talk to me about the connection you see, yourself personally, between trucking and country music, because you've been in both?
Yeah, trucking, not everybody can do. It's a skilled trade. Some people set out to be a driver and they don't make it. It's many hours behind the wheel, and there's a lot going on, man. You got a 80,000 pound, plus bullet that can hurt people too, and people don't realize what it takes to drive. I mean, you got to have skill to maneuver that truck around, even when you get in tight spots, parking lot, blindside backing, all kinds of stuff that you have to learn, and that comes with experience. And same thing with music. It's something that you have to learn. It's a craft, and not everybody can do. And it's real similar to truck driving. It's a lot of hours. A lot of people on the music, a lot of people on the outside of music don't realize how many hours goes on behind the scenes of just being the best that you can be. And that's the same with truck driving. There's so many hours behind the scenes that's going on so you can be the best driver and get the load to its destination as safely as possible, and also watching out for the public. There's a lot of things that can happen, on the interstate or anywhere. You can have an easy accident and that could end everything. And music's a lot like that. It's a lot of hours on the road too as well. We just come back from Tennessee playing this weekend. And it's pretty similar, man. We're stopping at truck stops, eating, grabbing a coffee and heading down the road. It's got a lot of relation, and we were actually taking showers at the truck stop just to keep moving, so we can get to the next destination. But they have a lot of similarities, and so I can relate to it a lot.
And this song came out on Trucking Appreciation Day, was that right?
Yes, we decided to go with 10/4, October 4th, and it was just good timing. And my buddy, he passed in September of 21, so we were real close, to his, date, and it was just good timing, and then it just happened. And we've been releasing songs throughout the year. I went to Nashville last August. I cut 6 songs. Last Road to Heaven is one of the 6. And we've been, kind of trickling them out throughout the year, like every month and a half, all these new songs. And it just lined up perfectly. We were shooting for Truck Driver Appreciation Day or Appreciation Month, and trying to give it that time to get out there and release, and just have a tribute to truck drivers, on the day and month, or the day and month of their appreciation, just let them know that we see them, and we appreciate everything they do.
Back to the gates of heaven, dropping off his last load.
For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now. Welcome back. The director of the FBI recently warned Congress that the attack by Hamas against Israel could inspire attacks here in the United States, and that means truckers have to be extra vigilant in the days ahead. Here is some information and advice is OOIDA Director of Safety and Security Operations, Doug Morris. Doug, how are you doing?
Mark, how are you?
Very well. I think the first thing people are going to be asking is how serious is the threat? Based on your contacts and what you're seeing there in D.C., how serious of a threat is this?
It's a pretty serious threat. We do know that from bulletins we've gotten from DHS and FBI that there is a known entity out there that, sympathizers, as you will, that, are trying to stir up campuses, stir up, churches, and just be disruptive in different areas. And then, they're always concerned about that lone wolf, which could go out there and really cause havoc by, doing whatever. So it's, they don't have any specific information or specific personnel that they're interested in, but they know that there's a lot of information being passed around out there for these folks to just be very disruptive.
What sort of things that truckers encounter daily could potentially be targets? I mean, what type of situations or places or locales?
It could be anywhere. I mean, I know the FBI is concerned about religious facilities, Jewish religious facilities, Jewish businesses. They're also concerned about roadways being closed down all of a sudden. And then we've seen that in past situations where, a highway would be shut down and people would go out there and truckers seem to be right in the middle of it because they have to stop, and then, they're involved in it by people crawling on their trucks and stuff like that. And my suggestion to them is just stay in the truck and call 911. And we've seen in the past where they've actually, where drivers have gotten out and interacted with some of those members, and it hasn't turned out very well.
In the past, there have been things like large gatherings of people or bridges and other infrastructure. Is there a thought that type of thing is also included this time as well?
It's a possibility. I mean, it's not, probable, but, it's possible. And, they're like I said, these folks who are sympathizers just want to be disruptive, and, they may get together and just say, hey, let's go out here and shut this bridge down or shut this roadway down. And they may know that a personal, like a politician might be in that area, the president or vice president, and they may decide to shut down a road just because of that. And unfortunately, our folks travel up and down these highways every day and, unsuspecting of something that would be happening all of a sudden. And that's, our concern is, a roadway gets shut down all of a sudden, and here, our members are sitting in this traffic jam or what have you, or, accidents occur because of it. And, now they're part of this situation.
What are some of the basic precautions truckers should take with their rigs? I mean, you talked a little bit about if you encounter a situation, but what about with the rig itself? What sorts of things should you be doing to make sure that that's secure?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're hauling hazmat or something like that, be cognizant of what you're hauling. And if you're in a truck stop and someone starts asking questions about, hey, you're placarding, or just asking, crazy questions, make sure you call, the FBI or DHS. If it's an emergency situation, I always call 911. But if you want to call FBI, it's 1-800-CALL-FBI. And they have a tips line, tips.fbi.gov. And then if you want to call the Transportation Security Operations Center with DHS, TSA, it's 844-TSA-FRST. And I suggest people, I know we trained a lot of people in First Observer. There's a new program called First Observer Plus. If you Google First Observer Plus, there's training modules for all aspects of surface transportation and transportation professionals. And there is some information out there for truckers. I mean, there is an actual module for truckers out there.
And just to repeat those phone numbers, it's 1-800-CALL-FBI. the website tips.fbi.gov,
Correct.
and 844-TSA-FRST.
That is correct.
Okay. Back when First Observer was going, there were a lot of things that we told truckers to be on the lookout for, things that don't look right. Can you give a few examples of some of the things they might want to be looking out for in this case?
Sure. I mean, we're seeing this now in some that's coming out in New York where they're putting carts and they're locking them to poles or trees, and they're not really sure what this is, but but someone's doing this purposely, putting these carts there and putting different things in them. And what they know in the past from terrorist events overseas and here is they'll have different segments of a planning to get to the end result of a terrorist event. Like they'll have one person set up, where maybe explosives might be or weapons. They may have somebody else shut down a road, and these people would not really know exactly what they're doing, but they're being told to do this. They just do it, and then in the end scenario is someone comes in there and just causes havoc for whatever reason, the explosions or what have you. But if you see something out of the ordinary that you travel down the road and you say, well, this doesn't look right, is make a call to one of these places. And it's an emergency situation, obviously call 911. Right now, the FBI and DHS say that they don't have any specific information about any terrorist, but they do know that there's some folks here in the country that have been on a terrorist watch list that have made it into the United States, and they're not really sure where they are or what they're planning to do, but there is a propensity that something may happen. So, you have to be on your, on top of your game, keep an eye on what's going on. And number one thing is take care of yourself and take care of your load.
Are cyber attacks part of the concern here?
Yeah, absolutely. They're also concerned with nation states with ransomware, and obviously overseas, these other countries have tried to. And in fact, I think just today they actually hit one of the aviation components of one of the aviation companies was hit by a cyber attack, and we see this a lot lately, ransomware stuff, and just keep an eye on what you're opening up if it's something that you don't know. I mean, a refund from UPS or something, and you're not expecting any refund. Don't open those links up, because more than likely it's going to be some type of ransomware.
Okay. What aspects of trucking could be targeted by cyber activity? I mean, you talked about aviation, but in trucking specifically, outside of the personal stuff like fishing, is there anything that you should be watching out for?
Yeah, so I mean, I know that they've shut down ports before through ransomware and things of that nature, but they can, you could be unsuspectingly hauling something from point A to point B. And this has to go back to the fraudulent broker issue. I know DHS is concerned about that now. I just had a call with them last week, and they are concerned about this fraudulent broker issue because they know most of these fraudulent brokers' schemes are coming from overseas, and who knows? I mean, one of these folks that are involved in this can have an unsuspecting truck driver pick up some load of whatever, hazmat or something, and deliver it to a terrorist. And just, if you're delivering something that hazmat or something like that, and it goes to someone's house or something like that, drop ship here, and it doesn't look right, obviously, call the authorities.
Okay. Well, Doug, thank you very much for the information. We certainly appreciate it.
Sure thing.
I've been talking with OOIDA Director of Safety and Security Operations, Doug Morris. And once again, those phone numbers and that website are 1-800-CALL-FBI, 844-TSA-FRST, and the website is tips.fbi.gov. And of course, we'll have all that information on our website, landlinenow.com. Just click on the photo or headline in the red box. Our program is produced by the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, the only national organization representing the interest of professional truckers in Washington, D.C., in state legislatures, and with the regulatory agencies that deal with transportation and highway safety. That's our program for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
My kids.
chrome,
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.